Oh hey guys, what's up? Can I be honest about something? I have been doing like nothing today. Like, I could have been streaming like 2 hours ago, but I've just been sitting around. Like I'm not even playing gacha games. Like I don't know. Maybe I need another gacha game to play. Like I just need something to like just like, you know, just kill time. Like if I'm gonna play an actual game, I want to lock in, but like I didn't feel like locking in for like 2 hours, so like that's why I didn't stream. So like I just needed a gacha game to play, but I'm actually caught up with everything. Like this is crazy. Like I didn't even know what to grind. I just did a bunch of gacha slop events today, man. I wish I had some gacha slop events to play. Maybe it's time to get back into Enfield. Just kidding. Okay, actually, can I be honest about that too? I may have done the exploration, because I do find the exploration in Enfield kind of fun. Just play the games in your library. But like I said, I want to be like locked in if I'm starting a new game. Like I wasn't sure if I even wanted to do like the extra chapters, but like, or if like I wanted to start a new game, but I wasn't sure what new game to start. So like, yeah, now we're doing this. Honestly, I don't think I want to do like the chapters before the end. Like I wish I did the like the middle chapters like in order. Not, it feels weird to do them now. So like I might just like how do I get this one here? Wait, this is the epilogue, right? Hello? Why can't I read it? Oh. Okay, yeah, that is the epilogue, so... Okay, that's the final chapter. Just read them in order from top left to top right to right. Wait, but like I said, I don't know if I want to do these, like, chapter 1.5. Am I excited to go back to chapter 1.5? Holy shit, I just noticed that advertisement billboard in the bottom left. That is crazy. Some are very good. Morning in the city moved incredibly fast. It made one wonder if it was even a morning at all, with people so bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Okay, can someone explain though why I was not told to do the extra chapters in order? The unfamiliar roar that awoke him reminded him of a rock slide. The identity of the monstrous sound was the engine of a motorcycle. Mr. Yoshida, his neighbor, was leaving for work. It is hard to determine when night ended and morning began here, because the lights are always on in the city. The town's urbanization was synonymous with insomnia. So strange seeing Sojiro like so tired like this. I swear to God, later on he's like up 24/7 doing his jobs. Like he's working in the middle of the night, which just happened. He sluggishly lifted himself off the floor. He caught himself starting to survey his surroundings out of habit before deciding better of it, and made his way to the washroom. I guess it is cool, I guess, just to see how much he's changed from chapter 1.5, I guess, to the end of the story. Because, you know, I'm already noticing, like, different things about his personality. But it would have been more natural if I played it after chapter 1, in between you know. There, he poured himself a cup of water and slowly gulped it down. Having been relegated to well water until recently, he found the convenience pleasing. Pleased was definitely the word best described how he felt. Civilization is about erasing inconveniences through optimization. The reduction of labor in our daily lives. Mr. Koga had taught him that while the essentials were easier than ever to get our hands on, life itself was growing more and more complex. So too was it his duty to adjust to his new reality. As a distant relative of Sojiro's father, Mr. Koga had taken Sojiro in, even though the boy had been a little more than a stranger in his life till that point. Mr. Koga had helped him get registered at school and find an apartment to lease. Though he had insisted that Sojiro handle his residence card and register his change of address by himself. The series of procedures proved exceedingly difficult for Sojiro, but knowing that this was a part of his new city life, he did his best to complete them diligently. While they may have a reputation for being a stickler for the rules, city offices aren't all that bad. It was the first thing Sojiro learned after beginning his life in the city. 2 weeks had elapsed since he left the countryside. As uneasy as living alone made him feel, he felt he could make it work. It was not as if the people here spoke another language, and Mr. Koga was absolutely right about how practical the rules of the city were. Sojiro continued down the hard but surprisingly walkable path. Before work, he jogged in the park to pass the time. Even exercise like this offered lessons for Sojiro to learn. Each passing person was a new face to look at. The old man who greeted him, the young worker with his eyes on the ground, and the girl on the bench surrounded by birds. They were all unfamiliar sights to Sojiro. Unaccustomed to the city, he labored to understand its rules. Whether they were complex, simple, or completely meaningless. Compared to mountain life, which only dealt with nature, city life left with way too many options. One could argue that such an environment was toxic for Sojiro. His life was the string of unsettling moments. But amongst it all, there were rules that he sincerely admired. For one, that the city revolved around various forms of profit and loss. The fact that one only needed money to get the bare essentials to survive the city was a comforting thought to Sojiro.
Yeah, そうシンプルな話じゃねえよ。金なんてものはあくまで記号で、本当に大事なのは別にあんだからさ。所詮は流動する肩たたき券と変わんねえっつうが、別に1万円札食ってもうまくねえっつうが。ともかく金で真心は買えねえじゃん。
Money can't buy you happiness.
じゃねえよ、ざけんなよ。俺は悲しいよ。ついこの間まで4000ポッチの日当に鹿みたいに首かしげていた正直者がくだらねえ皿洗いをしながら、まあ世の中金だよねなんてボソッと言わないでくれっつな。
いや、貨幣制度は素晴らしいと思う。正直物々交換の限界を感じた。それより木の実、ふざけてるとそれ落とすぞ。
っておお、やべやべ、次割ったら今度こそ俺の頭が割られちまうからな。忠告サンキュー。それで相談事？何？もしかして金？
そうなんだ。とりあえずお金は大事で、たくさんあるに越したことはないって
It's better to have more money than less.
なんで、
True.
できればもうちょっと働きたい。
マジ？マシンみたいに皿洗いをこなしながら夢のないこと言わないでほしいな。世の中金じゃねえって言ったばかりじゃんか。やっぱラブじゃんか。ところで水冷たくないですかね。冬場の皿
Didn't
洗
I
いって
just
割合
how
ね
money can't
上
buy
ね
happiness? W type.
そりゃ冷たいけどこれぐらいは我慢しないと。山の水は冷たいっていうより痛かったし。
氷水と同じにすんな野生児。しかしあれだね、呆れた順応力、いや忍耐力っつうの。レジ打ちすらできなかった新人がよ、たった4日でしみったれた飯屋の社畜になっちまうなんて、やっぱ世の中金ってことかね。資本主義ってすげえ。
The man?
うるせえぞバカバイト、文句あんならやめちまえ。
The
う
man.
ちにはごくつぶしにくれてやる小遣いはねえ。
The complaints and chopsticks flew at them like a storm. This mess of a Chinese restaurant manager was a stubborn man who was willing to let minors work for him and didn't shy from violence, even if it was directed at the son of a lifelong friend. Sojiro felt that this is what Sparta must have been like. How does Sojiro know what Sparta is? Did he learn about Sparta in the mountains?
ほら怒られた。任されたことはきちんとやらないと。
け優等生め、こっちは何かと反抗したい年頃だっつの。まあいいや、話は変わるんだけどよ。しずき夜に出歩くタイプ？それかチャリンコで出張る趣味？いやまあどっちかでいいんだけど。
I'm assuming late night strolls, considering what happens in chapter 3.
バイトの帰りはほとんど夜になるけど、そういう話じゃないんだよな。夜の散歩も遠出も趣味じゃないけど、それが？
いや何さ、しずき引っ越してきたばかりだって言うからよ。俺らが言うのもなんだけど、うちちょい治安が悪いっての？柄が悪いわけじゃねえんだけどな。年間10人ぐらい通り魔事件っての、そういうの起きてっから。
通り魔ってなんだ？
そっからかよ。なんだほら、カバン強盗でもないか。辻斬りってのが近いのか。住宅街とかまだ森が残ってる方によく出やがるんだよ、そういうおかしいのが。なんであんまり夜遅くは出歩くなよな。三崎岡の公園とか有名な待機スポットだから。
Holy foreshadow. Wait, why did I not read this like in chronological order? This is crazy foreshadowing.
通り魔の犯人は口裂け女だったって話知らねえか？
The freak doing it is some chick with the sliced mouth.
ごめん。まずその口裂け女ってのがわからない。
階段だよ。口が耳まで裂けてるってやつ。今じゃ
Okay, I don't
さすが
know
に
about
時代
that.
遅れだけどよ。
Unless they're talking about the puppet. But the
な
puppet
んだっ
didn't have
け？
that.
深夜の道にな、コート姿の女が待ち伏せていて、私、綺麗とか聞いてくるんだよ。で、綺麗って言っても、いまいちって言っても家まで追っかけられて殺されるの。女の少年はおっかねえっつうか、アメコミの怪人っぽいっつうか。
いや、それ本気で怖くないか？家まで上がってくるのか、その女の人。
窓から入ってくるらしいぜ。ガサガサとこうゴキブリみたい。ギャー
Oh, got bonked.
のクソガキが厨房でその4文字は禁止だってんだろ。殺すぞ。
The back of Kinomi's head exploded in pain with the impact of his boss's frying pan. Sojiro was reminded of just how dangerous this town can be. Is he talking about the boss or the lady?
殺すってバカじゃねえの？普通そっちの方が禁止用語じゃねえの？ここレストランなんだしさ。いや、あんまうまくねえけど。
ひなみ、頭大丈夫か？
え？ああ、心配無用。俺なんだか頑丈さには定評があるから。特に頭部について。ともかく、そういうわけなんで夜の暗がりは気をつけるぞなもし。しずき、
He did not
見
listen
るから
to
に
his
かまそうな
advice.
顔してるし。
ありがとう。ところで、年間10人というのは多い方なのか？
知んねえよ。 少なくはないだろうけど多い方でもないんじゃないか。ま、うちの通り魔事件が他に比べて厄介なのはまだ犯人が見つかってないってことだからね。
He laughed cheerfully. Kinami was probably trying to take the edge off of his story, but the noble intention of his laugh was completely lost on Sojiro. His friendly warning was equally futile. Sojiro was simply impressed that Kinami was able to laugh it off. On the way home, nobody ahead or behind, Sojiro proceeded through a dimly lit street when suddenly... He turned to face an improbable sound. What? Something stabbed him in the head and fell to the floor. He frowned. A small bird had apparently flown into the telephone pole before landing on his head. A bird? The robin? The starling cleaned itself off and flew away. The falling of a bird, and his desperate escape thereafter, was unlike anything he had experienced in his life up until now. Most of the townsfolk would have seen the incident as unlucky, ominous, or even sinister, but Sojiro just nodded and went about his business. He probably thinks it's a normal thing in the city. You must understand. What might have been a first for him was surely an everyday occurrence for the... Man, I understand this story so well. Oh, that was only volume 1. Oh, fuck. Oh, this is gonna take a while, isn't it?
Alice, 教会から帰るとき、商店街でお土産もらっちゃった。伊勢屋のせんべい、一緒に食べない？
On the way home from... I didn't even learn that there is a church until like chapter 10. Why did I not do these? Like, I'm actually getting mad. Why did I not do these before? Oh my god. Wait, these actually provide so much context. Her voice reverberated through the foyer, dyed in the colors of the setting sun. It was after 5 in the afternoon when Aoko, still in her school uniform, cheerfully returned home. She had finished her student council duties and attended her monthly meeting with the church. Which I did... I didn't know there was a church.
その様子なら何事もなく終わったみたいね、青子。
The voice was coming from the second floor. In contrast with Aoko and her boundless energy, a considerably calmer girl descended from above.
難癖はつけられたけど滞りなく。うちの問題はうちの問題だから、今回も手は出さないって方向でまとまったわ。ええ。猫の手なら借りたいけど、あの人たちの手は信用ならないし。
Oh.
いつも通り後処理だけお願いしましょう。
It's not really needed. Asking the church for help for Toko?
賛成。後ろからバッサリやられかねないしね。だいたい私もあんたも背中を気にして没頭できるからじゃないし。私はできるけど。青子は単にまだそれほどの余裕がないだけでしょ。うん。
Tap tap. With the graceful sounds of her steps, Alice entered the foyer. As she did, Aoko's eyes were directed towards the skylight above.
ガラス、曇ってるわね。そのことで話があるわ。今日の課題が終わったらだけど。青子、体の調子は？
I don't think either of them would be
疲れて
willing
いる
to
なら
clean it.
休みを入れてもいいけど。
They're both too lazy.
え？何よ気味悪いな。気遣いされることなんてないってば。
As school activities went, today's were a breeze. At a glance, her school life might have seemed almost idyllic. Though the more she thought about it, some headache-inducing incidents may have stood out here and there. And with some sincere introspection, Aoko might have recognized the signs of her own mental fatigue, but doing so would have further added to her stress.
ストップ。なんで帰ってきてまであんなののことで疲れなくちゃいけないんだ、私。今日の課題って初歩のウィッシュでしょ？問題ないわ。すぐ始めましょう。今日はなんか勢いでうまくいきそうな気もするし。
Aoko focused on shedding her anger and stress. That's right, because she was taught by Alice.
どうしたのよ？アリスの部屋でやるんじゃないの？
The formally dressed Alice nodded in slight dissatisfaction.
それで伊勢屋のせんべいって今日の？
She looked at the freshly baked treats Aoko was holding. In the end, their lesson took place after Alice had her cup of tea. For an apprentice like Aoko, Alice Kuonji was the kind of roommate and teacher that was hard to come by. If she insisted that Aoko rest to preserve her health, Aoko had no choice but to comply. The lesson was over after 2 hours, so the two finished the dinner they had prepared and decided on a change of venue for where they would spend the last hours of the day. The sunroom was next to the drawing room in the east wing of the residence and offered a view of the beautiful grounds. The beautiful grounds? I thought the grounds were ugly because they didn't maintain it until Sojiro came along and cleaned everything up. How can it be beautiful? The proud Kuonji Estate's luxurious sunroom featured furnishings on par with those in the splendid drawing room. Meanwhile... Oh.
来年の夏はジャングルね。
Oh.
この分だと。
Oh. Never mind. The grounds outside had fallen into disrepair, neglected by the owner.
ねえアリス、庭掃除専用のプロイとかいないの？
True. Aoko took a step into the sunroom and poured some tea.
探せばいるかもしれないけど少し手間ね。
Playing along with her roommate's joke, Alice made to sit in her chair. The Dragon Balls. Just as she caught sight of a box of chocolates on the table, her lovely eyes narrowed in a frown.
何よ、言っとくけど今日の失敗は半分アリスのせいよ。おせんべいで気が緩んだのが敗因っていうか、そりゃウィッシュのつもりがガンドになっちゃったのは我ながら攻撃的すぎると思うけど。
6個減ってるわ。
なんだ、そっちのことか。
Who ate them though? Aoko's eyes stared intently at the box of chocolates. You could search the world and never find the finer selection of chocolates. The brand was 6 songs, apparently.
で、鏡の話をするんだっけ？あれ、今洋館モードから岬モードになってるんでしょ？
Saki mode.
ええ。ここの管理はおざなりになるけど、岬市だけに切り替えたわ。それが昨日から曇り出している。少しずつだけど、確実に包囲されてるわね。
So the mirror maintains the mansion, or is it just security? I'm pretty sure it's just security. Now I know for certain that. Oh.
包囲って数が増えたってこと？
捕捉していた1名はもちろん、他にもう2名ほど不審者を目撃済み。都市部に1、
Is she talking
郊
about the
外の森
puppets?
に2年。
あんたの目撃談は当てになるからな。で、うるさいのはどっち？
森の方。捕捉中だけど、こっちの目に気づいているみたい。なかなか誘いに乗ってこないわ。
そっか。じゃあ今夜仕掛ける？
To go after it tonight. One simple suggestion that would change the course of her life forever. Damn. It was no overstatement to say that this was a roll of the dice that would decide whether she had the moxie to survive the experience of jumping out of a plane with a torn parachute. Aoko swallowed her hesitation and fear with a little tea. On the school's anniversary night, she declared that she had made up her mind, and from that time on, she would not waver. Alice welcomed her roommate's strength with the barest hint of regret. As someone who shared the same motivations as her, Alice was ultimately reassured by Aoko's resolve. Well, perhaps more pleased than reassured. All in all, it had taken the better part of a year, but finally Aoko had stepped out of Alice's shadow. The two partners now shared the same fate. Aoko was not the partner Alice had asked for, but a partner nonetheless. Strangers, worlds apart. And even if eventually they would battle each other to the death using all they had inherited, it was only right they did it on equal terms. Why? There is so much foreshadowing. Holy shit. It was, at least for now, a cause for celebration over how far Aoko had come.
せっかくだけど、今夜は私一人で十分よ。そんな余裕があるのなら、あなたはもう少し暗示の練習をするべきね。公演はあなたの担当だから、その時は働いてもらうけど。
Mesmerize. Alice did not so much as look at Aoko as she explained her reasons. The scale of the enemy she would face that night. Her plans for Aoko. For in only 2 days from now, Aoko Aozaki would be reborn.
はいはい、わかりました。
Aoko finished her tea and stood up from her seat.
お言葉通り、暗示の練習でもやってるわ。一節目は確か、軽く弱くうまく早く、チクタクチクタク急げや急げよね。
So this is the spell I'm pretty sure that she used on Sojiro, right? So he's not scared of anything. Nah, these were needed. I mean, like, it's not like they came out of nowhere, in like the actual like main chapters, but like, it's just cool to see the amount of foreshadowing, that these. I mean, maybe it is better that I'm reading them now, because like I think I wouldn't even realize all this foreshadowing in this dialogue if I didn't finish the story first. So like I'm appreciating all the foreshadowing right now. It's so nice.
そこは
And like I said, it's just cool seeing how much the characters have changed and how much you can compare it.
チクタクチクタクよ。
You're missing the quiet part. Remember the weight of the air, the tremble of one's breast. I don't remember her saying that. I think she's trolling.
気をつけなさい。それだと逆に落ち着かなくなるわ。
そうだったそうだった。じゃ、一つ失礼。
Aoko grabbed a piece of chocolate and popped it into her mouth. Yeah, I didn't like find myself like expecting to be this invested reading a chapter 1.5 story, but like I'm very invested right now. She waved before leaving Alice alone in silence. Alice stiffened a moment before slamming the box of chocolates shut as if it could serve to scold Aoko for snacking.
はようございます。
What? I do not recall a computer AI ever in the story.
午前0時を確認しました。
What the hell?
前回更新より24時間経過。バックアップ開始。レコード送信。周囲の地形をスキャンします。大気成分。
Is this the puppet?
異常なし。酸素異常なし。
I'm pretty sure that was the puppet's eye.
二酸化炭素異常なし。
I mean, that's the only other thing that could be like mechanical. With the
第五仮説要素。異常。
fifth theoretical
異
factor.
常
Fifth?
あり。 周囲の時空連続体に齟齬を確認。第一種危険物との遭遇と断定。視覚領域を主観から客観に変更。自律回路を予備電源に。計測回路を主電源に変更。カメラを赤外線計測から虚数線計測に変更。では、これより戦闘行為の
This has to be the
術を
puppet.
開始します。主よ、
Master?
どうか我が身を守りたまえ。
I mean, again, what else would it be? The only other thing I could think of would be Alice's ploy, but I don't think a ploy would sound that robotic. Favorite track from the game? How do I let me mute this. Like I said, it was the one that like I was like said really just works well in any scene. It was like dun 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 dun, dun like it was one of the piano pieces. Dun 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 dun. Yeah, Alice's theme. That's the one. Misaki City was a thickly wooded area. Urban development continued unabated, but Mother Nature still drew breath in its outskirts. Wise old trees had been turned to lumber. The leaves had begun to turn to mulch. Even though the birds who curiously tilted their heads had moved on, the verdure. French to English, greenery. Verdure. Even though the birds who curiously tilted their heads had moved on, the verdure lived on, a testament to its enduring strength. Until the time came that the devouring light of civilization became powerful enough to encroach upon nature's mysterious domain. These woods were no exception. The outlying border between Misaki City and Misaki Hills had been left untouched. Though driven from their nests and dens here, wildlife continued to subsist even today. No longer able to return to the days before man, this was just like any other forest situated next to a town. Diddle diddle, that's a ploy, right? I think that's a ploy. What was Alice doing? Winter had arrived in the woods. The chill cut like a razor. The icy air so thick it could reach one's bones. Exposed cheeks stiffened, and wisps of breath formed swirls in the air before disappearing. It was 1 degree above freezing. The cold snap penetrated every nook and cranny of the woods, from the ground to the trees to the wildlife. The forest allowed nobody entry during the day. During the winter, it willed the animals to slumber. The still evening air felt like the stagnant breath of the lingering dead. The forest consumed the moonlight, obscuring the sight of even the closest of precipices, and hastening the untimely doom of any soul unfortunate enough to become lost within. The only noises to be heard were the whisperings of the wind and the murmurings of the stream. The immortal darkness stifled any sense of life. Not the breath of an animal, much less that of a person, was drawn in this place. However, a figure in black, not of this place, skulked within. Alice? It cast the tiniest, frailest of silhouettes, like a small boat lost in a sea of fog. Its trepidatious footsteps echoed through the woods. Oh, it is Alice. Didn't even notice her silhouette. There, exiting the veil of trees, was the unmistakable likeness of a young girl. Wait, so what is Alice doing here? She just patrolling for the puppet? Because, she did mention there is a puppet in the woods, right? No, those are ploys talking. Those have to be ploys.
誰が誰が
誰と誰が
お腹は減ったの
お腹は鳴ったさ。
どっちが食べる
どっちも食べる。
君は左手
お前は右手。
Is this gonna show her soloing the puppet in the woods? Because that's what that eye was. It had to be the
感激し
puppet.
ないと。何しろようやく楽しいお客。
ついでにお腹と頸骨も
せっかくだからよく噛まないと。
The shadows in the trees laughed ominously. A hallucination, an illusion, or perhaps something real. The shadows frolicked in time to the girl's pace.
さあさあさあさあ
もっと奥へ、もっと奥へ。
ところでダイスは細工済み
They wouldn't explain that they're, This chapter wouldn't explain that these are ploys, because that was explained in chapter 5. That would be redundant.
お腹の重いローデット。
So I'm assuming this chapter is just gonna end without explaining what's even happening.
端っこかじったエッジワーク
どうでもいいけど肝心要の6の目だけは出さないように。
The girl knitted her eyebrows. She heard voices and felt the presence of things that should not be. Scary enough to frighten this particular girl. As if. Her tightly pursed lips betrayed not a hint of fear. The girl walked of her own volition. If she had truly felt fear, her legs would be frozen. Deep within the trees, she was perfectly aware of the two humanoid figures stalking her through the still night air.
見たぞ見たぞ
来るぞ来るぞ。
もう諦めろ
もう帰れない。
あんなに教えてあげたのに
よそに消えないお前が悪い。
The girl halted her steps. The racket from the accompanying voices died in turn. The babbling brook suddenly sounded like a crackling fire. And then... Oh! It's the thing Kinomi was talking about. Across the shallow stream, something appeared that should not exist in the city, much less these woods. Wait, but Kinomi said it was beautiful woman making that smile. The girl addressed them calmly. These men with the glass gow. Glass Glasgow is Glasgow, right? Glasgow. 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 God. How? There's no way, man. These men with their Glasgow grins creep towards her like two slugs.
そう。ただの墓守り。監視だけが仕事なのね。失敗したわ。これなら青子に任せればよかった。
Is it that trivial?
ああ。
Oh shit. The other, shaking violently as if unable to contain himself any longer, turned towards the girl.
青子にはまだ荷が重いわね。そんな姿だけど、あなたたちは一人前の魔術師のようだし。
Her black outfit stirred. In her right hand she held a vitreous cat, darker than the deepest night. The two Glasgow men let out a yelp of caution and incoherent fear. It was at this moment that they finally bared their intent in motion.
さようなら、お客様。きっと一瞬だろうから。お別れだけ言っておくわ。
The two shuddered at her words. They had no mouths, nor ears or brains to begin with. For creatures like these, words were redundant. All that existed was the present. For these soulless creatures, fears and hopes were nothing more than unimaginable feature. Then what could be this feeling of foreboding they felt? The spine-chilling miracle that would rip them to pieces not moments from now.
さあ、ごっこ遊びをしましょう。
Puppets.
お人形
Wait, this
さ
looks
ん
nothing like the puppets that were in the main story though. Her song sounded like a bell, echoing through the white woods. The girl's voice vanquished the frost that had gripped the trees. Then,
いやいや、ずいぶん待たされた。
the cows. The curtains opened on Diddle Diddle, the banquet of the night. In confusion, one slit-mouthed man swooped towards the girl. In fear, the other fled into the woods behind him. The deformed humanoid darted forward, kicking up water as it rushed the girl. She already knew what this fiend was. The grinning figure had scissors for hands and a demon's heart. It was a wretch who kidnapped children, mercilessly rendering them into pieces.
トゥイードル。
お任せお任せ。
ようやく出番だ。あらよったん。
The piglets bounded and rebounded like paddle balls. The stuffed animals over 3 feet in length jumped and weaved their way between the trees. Even with these strange creatures before him, the grinning man did not so much as blink. He raised his arms, but what emerged from his coat sleeves were not that human appendages you would expect. In their place, fiendish cleavers more than 1.5 feet in length. These appendages, which had torn so much of their prey to pieces, sliced clean through the flying pig skulls. Oh no! Another ploy gone. His limbs froze in place. The pigs' bodies were sliced perfectly in half. And then, bisected from head to tail, the pig's innards became an alligator jaws, as alligator jaws and clamped down upon the grinning man's arms. From fingertips to shoulders, they were swallowed whole. It was all it took to rob the man of control over his entire body. Oh, the smile is the eye. Oh. Another shiver of fear. These were no mere pig familiars. Immediately, he realized that these were stapler monsters disguised as mere pigs.
捕まえたのはダムでした。
捕まえたのは D だってば。
ああでも残念、ご主人様は無口で無情で無関心。
結局どっちの手柄も同じこと。
London Bridge is broken down, broken down, broken down.
Wait. What is she summoning with this? Impossible. His presence murmured the 3 times. Not possible. Not possible. Not possible. Talking pigs were one thing. Even having one's arms chomped off was in the realm of occupational hazard. In an instant, the wood was enveloped in a dense wave of magical energy. Though vexing, it was still impressive. None of these facts were particularly extraordinary. These rare familiars, their bizarre attack, the sheer innate magical energy to overwhelm others. He had experienced with all these things. His employer was skilled enough to achieve all of this as well. However,
どうするどうする、いつまで放置？
手足一本、瞬きだって贅沢だ。
お支払いは面倒でも、できればポンドでお願いします。
what were they? Not vessels. Not living creatures. Not beings powered by magic circuits. Even though only his arms had been bitten, none of his body would move. It was nothing like being bound or weakened. This felt more like he had become words written in the book, fated to keep to their page. As the grinning figure's deformities indicated, he had overcome numerous curiosities and monstrosities. Illusions, enthrallment, compulsions, freezings, putrefactions, and even... What the fuck is putrefactions? The anaerobic decomposition of organic matter, particularly proteins, by bacteria and fungi. Alright then. Oh! It's the Kitty Land. Wait, did she... Was that the nursery rhyme for Flat Snark? I think it... Oh, it is. What the fuck? She summoned it this early? Oh. Wait, why do I hear the Kitty Land theme then? Freezings, putrefactions, and even petrifications, a power granted to only the pinnacle of Mystic Eyes. They're mentioning Mystic Eyes this early. This was before Chapter 2, what the fuck? From poisons to magecraft, he had weathered a great deal. But this was something different altogether. The penalty that bound him now was based on different principles from blood, flesh, oxygen, or heat. It was an unknown restraint that followed no rules he knew. Indeed, though it was terrifying to admit, it was as if he had encountered something alien to everything in this world. I'd assume they wouldn't actually show the troll though. Yeah, it's just like, it's up to interpretation at this point, what happened. Fang sank into his left and right shoulders. For the first time in this... Dude, okay, I'm serious. I think I would have enjoyed like the early chapters a lot more if I actually read this, because like this builds intrigue of like what the fuck is finally is what this starts building intrigue and what's happening in the plot and what's like, you know, like the first 2 chapters was like I remember a complaint I have for like the first 2 chapters was like it's 4 hours straight and it feels like nothing has happened, and like I feel like this finally this extra chapter shows something happening, like the plot is actually progressing. Like, it shows what the Aoko and Alice are fighting, basically. And we didn't get that until chapter 3, 4 hours after chapter 1 and 2. It's crazy. For the first time in this form, he felt rage seethe up inside him. The basis of all things had to be absolute. All mystics, all things bizarre, obeyed some set of laws. But these pigs ignored this, along with his dignity.
さあ3日で衰弱
6日で溺死。
半年経てば惨めな骸骨
でもご無礼。
面倒だから今殺そうか
Like, it builds intrigue on, like, the magic system without actually explaining what's happening. And then it would get answered in later chapters. Like, the payoff is there. Just for these small things. How? Though he had no voice, he let out an exasperated scream. Oh.
なんて便利自分の腕を外せる機構
Oh.
お前こそ三国
Okay,
一
sorry,
のもの
Matra.
だよ。
The talkative pigs fell into the stream. That exasperated scream was the sound of the figure tearing his arms from their sockets. Armless, he rushed the girl.
役立たず。後でお仕置きが必要ね。
Wow. He may have lost his mangled arms, but not the object of his malice. A mystic eye to pierce the heart of its victim. A magic circuit designed to stop a beating heart. It was beautiful in its simplicity. At point-blank range, it was the equivalent of an unavoidable shotgun blast. But, tragically, that eye was all he had.
Build up with wood and clay, wood and clay, wood and
Oh
clay.
shit.
Build up with wood and clay, my fair lady.
He failed to realize that her song had changed. For the giant, the earth-shattering strike was akin to the act of shooing away an insect. Its green, verdant veins pulsed. Oaken bark covered its bodies, hardened sufficiently over centuries to repel even a chainsaw. On its forehead, inscribed in all manner of colors, was the word Emet. 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 Imet. Emet. Okay. Anyways, though judging from its misspelling, the inscription was purely decorative. They actually just tell you what it is that at the what? Wow. Wow. That's crazy. It also went by the moniker of Falling Down, or alternatively, the Great Bridge. Admired in different forms, it was the first of 4 miracles.
テムズ、もう一体お願い。
I just can't believe they show this in chapter 1.5 and then I never saw it playing the main story until like chapter 10. The giant responded to the girl's words. With roots rent deep into the earth, it raised its left arms to the heavens without moving a step. And then it instantly gets mocked by Bayo. But this chapter shows it's like, oh, Alice is really strong. This troll is really strong. And then like when she summons it in like the later chapter versus versus Toko, it'd be like, oh shit, Toko's getting mogged, and then like, yeah. Elsewhere in the forest, the grinning figure who had chosen to flee the battle was running through the night forest at full speed. Record and provide a detailed description of the enemy, which it doesn't get to do because I'm pretty sure Toko got completely caught off guard when she summoned the troll. Those were the orders assigned to him. He poured all of his energy into escaping this forest with which he had become so familiar. In case of emergency, the plan was for one to challenge the enemy while the other made a tactical retreat in order to report to the master. He dashed through the forest. Though gripped by fear, he was confident in his ability to perform the mission he was designed for. Nothing could catch him in these woods. Even the wolves could not track him. His bird-like legs thumped as they kicked the ground. Perhaps it was his creator's eccentric taste that dictated their form when optimizing them for running. The grinning man could reach at a maximum speed of 45 miles per hour, well past the limit of any bipedal creature. After securing a distance of several miles, he turned around to confirm his safety. Chat, I think this story was translated by an American. They used miles instead of kilometers. Strange. There is no sign of pursuit. His crescent-shaped mouth, nay, eye, slackened in relief. And then, after facing forward once more, he looked up to lock eyes with his doom.
London Bridge is broken down, broken down, broken down.
In the distance, he could hear the dark rhymes of Mother Goose. Countless vines extended from the ground. They formed into a monstrosity that conjured up images of an arched bridge, something resembling a giant arm.
London Bridge is broken down, my fair lady.
最終報告。生還は困難。解析は困難。転送は困難。状況を終了します。はあ。主よ、どうかこの身を。
済んだよね。お疲れ様。戻ってテムズ。次はもっと高価な場所ならいいのだけど。
Oh, it definitely is. The girl turned on her heel. The invaders who had set up shop in the woods were eliminated. She had no interest in whether they had been good or evil, nor how many victims they had claimed. The shackles of civic society held no sway over her. This was the way of the pure-blooded witch, the way of a monster. She got called a witch as well. Huh. I swear to God, for the longest time, Toko was the only person called a witch. But Alice just got called a witch in chapter 1.5.
僕たちは？ねえ、僕たちは？
この腕抜けないんだけど。
噛んだままだと僕らも動けないっていうかさ。
ひどい。飛べない豚に用はないと。
次はお役に立ちます、きっと。生まれてこの方、失敗続きの僕らだけど。
壊れるまでに一度くらいは褒められたいね。
I mean, they are all witches. I guess. The girl let out a sigh and stepped into the stream. She removed her gloves and dipped her slender fingers into the ice water.
6の目は出すなって言うけど、6の目しか出ないようになってるわよね、あなたたち。
There's no response to her melancholy tone. In place of the once boisterous pigs were 2 black dice, now sitting in the palm of her hand. As the girl was about to say something to the scattered remains around her, she realized something that made her put a hand to her mouth.
お別れは済ませていたわね。目ぐらいは聞いておくべきだったかしら。
Her slender, pale fingers traced her lips as if reluctant to part from them. Sighing again, she calmly left the dark woods the same way she had entered. Chat, these are not filler. I mean, maybe the first two, but like, no, I feel like that actually would have helped so much in the pacing of the earlier chapters. Let's rewind to a moment in the recent past. The scene took place on a Saturday morning in early December. With third period over just before lunch, the only activity that remained before the scholastic day ended was homeroom. I mean, I guess? I feel like you could say this. Actually, never mind. Two of Class C students, Sojiro Shizuki and Hosuke Kinomi, were standing outside on the balcony overlooking the schoolyard. They were stuck waiting for their homeroom teacher, Mr. Kazuki Yamashiro, and could not leave until he arrived. The rest of your classmates were chatting idly in the classroom. Class A Tobimaru Tsukiji was killing time alongside them. The listless trio discussed their weekend plans as they leaned on the veranda's railings.
木の実はベアでアルバイトか？
バカ、誰が日曜まで働くかったやな。明日はほら B 組の子たちと遊びに行く予定だったんだけどな。なんかうちから出られねえ。
I refuse to believe this man could pull anyone.
え？それはつまりまた振られたのか？
うわ、直撃！言いづらいことをまっすぐ言うよね、しずきくんってば。
Oh, at least that was the plan. Why that? Never mind. I don't know why I didn't read that.
そりゃ毎日てめえのバカ面見てればひよこだって振られるって言葉を覚えるだろうよ。自滅するのは勝手だけどな。くれぐれもその字に変な遊び教えんなよ。
Is it weird that like when I was like reading like chapter 2, I thought like Tsukiji would actually be like more like relevant in the plot. Like I thought he would have some sort of connection to the mages. But no, he actually just became irrelevant after chapter 2.
はあ？そりゃ殿下の方じゃねえの。気ぃつけろよ、しずき。築地はマジで腹黒いからよ。こいつの頭の中はほら、あれ、ゴミ捨て場の張り紙？あんな感じだから、くっきり使えるもんと使えないもんを分けてんだよ。
ああ、それは知ってる。ところで唐突に思ったんだが、飛び丸の中じゃ木の実はどういう扱いなんだ？
そうだな。粗大ゴミ回収は金でももらわねえと割り合わなくなるんじゃねえか。国が無料で回収するのはそろそろおしまいってとこ。
で、
はあ？何言ってんのお前。使い古しのタンスとか高く売れるじゃん。俺みたいな開封即使用みたいな男がこれからのトレンドなわけでしょ。ほら、コンビニで売ってる使い捨てカメラとか大人気だし、 ようやく流行が俺の消費文明に追いついたと。
じゃあ木の実はバイトと。飛び丸は
来るからね、ちゃんと俺の時代。
俺はちょい塩だ。親父の客が来てるんで接待しなきゃならん。街の案内をしてくれとさ。
聞けよ、人の話聞けよ。俺は妹の相手してやるだけなんだよ。隣のクソ中華飯店の手伝いなんかしねえよ。
その女、明日もバイトか？
いや、それが一日空いてる。今日はこれから遊園地でアルバイトだけど。
The amusement park? Wait.
それって魔のキッズイランド？
No, it wouldn't be Kittyland. Kittyland's closed
タ
down.
フだね、しずき。あそこのバイトは柔道部の連中でも値を上げるって話じゃんか。
The only reason he went to Kittyland was because Aoku gave him that letter to meet her there. So why would she?
なんとまさか猫黒の荷物運びより辛い。
Ex-Fed.
いや、そこまではよく。しかし山城の野郎おっせえな。見ろ、隣の B 組すらお帰りになられてるぞ。
だな、仕方ねえ。面倒だが呼んでくるか。その字を遅刻させるわけにはいかねえし。
Wait, why would he have a job at Kittyland though? And as if by design, the moment Tobimaru Skiju stood up warily from the balcony railing, the school's PA system chime rang.
2年 C 組の静木宗十郎くん、山城先生がお呼びです。至急職員室まで来てください。
An awkward silence fell upon the three. After a long 5 seconds, Sojiro said goodbye and headed back inside.
面白いことねえな。誰か校庭にミステリーサークルとか作ってくんねえかな。
Kinami grumbled, slouching his shoulders and succumbing to his lethargy.
他人の妄想力に期待すんなよ。刺激が欲しいならてめえでイベントを起こせ。ほら、クラス分け発表の時よろしく。青崎に突っかかればすぐだぜ。
蘇るトラウマ、やだよ。会長の大立ち回りは面白いのを通り越して恐ろしいよ。善良な一男子生徒としちゃ美少女が転校してくるだけでいいんだよ。まあ普通の子じゃつまんないからハリウッドのプロデューサーとかイギリスの歌姫とか。
どんなくくりだそりゃ。そこは火星のお姫様あたりにしとけよ。
それと2年 C 組の皆さんへ山城先生から伝言です。山城先生は訳あってホームルームを欠席しますので、各自勝手に下校しちゃってください
So they were
ね。
just waiting
それ
around
で
for
はで
nothing.
は。以上、放送室からお知らせしました。
どうよこれ。山城新車買ってからフリーダムすぎね。このままではあの真新しいセルビアに俺のギザ銃がうなりかねん。
鍵穴にガム程度にしとけ。教師の発給はマジ同情に値するからな。
Teachers get paid peanuts. Wait, I thought they get paid good in Japan. What? I can't believe this. The two frenemies returned to the classroom, complaining all the while. Their concern for their mutual friend summoned to the faculty office completely out of mind.
納得いきません。生徒のアルバイトは認められています。学校公認の職場であるなら社会経験の一環として推奨すると校則にもありますが。
Oh, so this is how he was able to work multiple jobs.
そうなんだけどね。彼の場合やりすぎなのが問題なわけで、仮にもし認可していない労働基準法に反してそうなところで働いてたら困るでしょ。うちも彼も。
The volatile tension between the ruthless student council president and the easygoing modern language teacher permeated the room. Praying to be spared from the impending confrontation, the other teachers hurriedly relocated to the meeting room. By the time Mr. Yamashiro noticed this, the only other person in the room was the student council president, Aoko Aozaki.
逃げたか。ひどいな、みんな。怖いのは僕に押し付けてばっかりだもんな。
話の続きです、先生。仮に彼が指定以外のアルバイトをしているとしたら、それは彼の要求に学校側が応えていないからではありませんか？下宿先の家賃を奨学金で賄えとは言いませんが、時間の許す限り働きたいという要望は考慮すべきです。指定外のアルバイトを疑うのなら、まず働き先は1生徒につき1件だけという規則を改めてください。
After hearing her out and realizing there is no way she would back down, Mr. Yamashiro hung his head. This was supposed to be easy. The plan was to call in the student rumored to be working multiple jobs, confirm whether the rumor was true, and if so, give him a warning and some guidance, and then head to lunch with the knowledge that all was right in the world. The student council president, who was coincidentally in the faculty room at the time, had heard the entire issue and decided to call out this injustice. Wow. She cared so much for Sojiro. As far as Mr. Yamashiro was concerned, she was in the right, and he was well aware of the aforementioned student's situation. Personally, he would have liked to help, but among the faculty he was just the new kid on the block. He wanted to stay on the vice principal's good side, and at the very least not lose his job, as badly paid as it was.
こればかりはね。副教頭先生直々の注意なんで、僕も助けてあげられないんだよ。
それでしたら、落としどころがあればいいんですね。
ん？
The student council president removed a document from her bag. It was a document that had been brought up in the morning's faculty meeting, bringing a host of headaches with it.
青崎くん、それは。
What?
はい。間教会のボランティア参加の申告書です。
The church.
今月も希望者ゼロですね。敬虔なクリスチャンである副教頭先生は、さぞお気を悪くしているかと。
He's a fraud.
我が校の生徒には新人が足りんと、今朝も嘆かれていたとか。
Oh, he's LARPing.
そうだけど、どうして君が今朝の職員会議の内容を知っているか聞きたいよ。本当。
Mr. Yamashiro scratched his head, but his eyes were smiling gleefully. He had figured out that the student council president's objective.
魚心あれば水心ありですか。教会への奉仕活動はボランティアだけど、きちんと謝礼が出る。あれも形の上では学校側が推奨する社会見学だからね。副教頭先生は参加者が出たことに喜び、加えて
その参加希望者がすでに他のアルバイトについていた場合、学校側の認可が2つになっちゃいますね。前例にしてはいい落としどころだと思いますが。
Mr. Yamashiro raised his hands in surrender. There were few students able to both raise a complaint and propose a proper solution. Perhaps it was her big sisterly disposition that made this girl so simultaneously feared yet trusted.
よし、その方向で攻めてみよう。うまくいくよう祈ってくれよ。
他力本願は嫌いです。悪巧みに乗ってくれるのならきちんと活躍してください、山城先生。
With a bow, the student council president turned to leave the faculty room.
ああ、待った待った。君も残るんだ。今からしずきくんを呼ぶから、ちゃんと面倒見てもらわないと。
は？
Oh no. The girl's cool eyes narrowed. Unable to process what she had just heard, her expression turned to a scowl.
いや、参加希望者は一人より二人の方がいいだろう。青崎くんがフォローしてくれるなら僕も安心だしね。
ちょっと先生。
ああ、放送室。 2年 C 組の静木宗十郎くん、至急職員室に来てください。で放送お願いします。
だから先生。
いやー、これで万全だ。まさか頭痛の種が同時に消え去るなんて、今日はついてる。ああ、けど青崎くん、ずいぶん親身になってくれるんだね。何？もしかしてああいうのがタイプ？あ、放送室さん、ついでに生徒会長が心からお待ちしていますと付け足して。
って山城！
Oh my, what? You can't do that to a teacher? The next day, a pleasant Sunday. Sojiro was awake 2 hours before the time he was supposed to meet her. After getting up, he decided to go for a leisurely jog to clear his mind, but lost among his own thoughts, his 30-minute jog turned to almost an hour. Upon realizing, he rushed home. Do you think Aoko cares? I don't know. After thoroughly racking his brain over what to wear for the occasion, he decided upon wearing his school uniform.
午前10時、三崎中央公園の東入り口で待ち合わせ。
Yesterday in the faculty room, when Aoka Aozaki had shared the time and place with him that day, she said it with such pain on her face. Maybe she was fighting a headache at the time.
しかし青崎の風邪は治っているのだろうか。
Sojiro muttered, his words of concern misguided as they were. In any case, he waited for about 5 minutes. At precisely 10 o'clock, the student council president appeared.
おはよう。いつものことだけど、時間だけはぴったりよね、あなた。ひどい顔ね。もしかして気分悪いの？
いや、体調はいいと思う。
He waved off her concern.
だがしかし、青崎は制服だった。
Yeah?
ええ、学校の行事だもの。当然でしょ？
A heavy weight of despondency fell upon Sojiro's shoulders. The angstings over his outfit for the previous 2 hours had been rendered meaningless just like that. The duo, clad in their school uniforms on a day off, walked by the train station. In the beginning, Aoko had made efforts to give Sojiro a thorough lay of the land, but today she only shared the bare minimum of explanations. This was partly because, surprisingly, Sojiro had become well accustomed to the town. Which restaurants were good, which shortcuts to use in a rush, and why the nearby bicycle shop was better than the department store by the station if you wanted to buy a bicycle. Things the local would know. But the other reason was that it had dawned on Aoko how the two of them conversing might look to passerbys. Uh-oh.
話は変わるけど、具体的にどんな労働内容なのか、そろそろ聞いていいかな。
From here on, volunteering at the church meant that the school would tolerate his multiple jobs. Sojiro had quickly agreed to the tempting offer, nodding like a bobblehead, but as was typical for him, he had failed to consider the content of the proposal.
まあ、そんなことだろうと覚悟はしてたけど。あなた、間教会は初めて？
This is the church I'm thinking of, right? Not some random church.
教会なら2回目だ。珍しい建物なんで近寄ったら、中の人がタダでお菓子をくれたんだけど。
Oh, I forgot her name. Fuck. He pondered with all sincerity how exactly a church worked. His contemplative posture made him appear the part of the philosopher, but after all his thinking, he concluded, I guess they start taking your money on your second visit? Such was the extent of Sojiro's concerns.
普通そういうことは子供にしかしないんだけどね、あの教会は。
Aoko sighed at the lost little lamp.
で、どんな人に会ったの？神父？それともシスター？
それは綺麗な女の人だった。
じゃあユイカさんの方ね。 今日会ったらお礼をって必要ないか。あんたのことだからそのあたりはきちっとしてるだろうし。仕事の話なら簡単よ。学校でやってることと変わらないから。
I think I remember even like one of my complaints when the church was introduced in the main chapter was like how out of nowhere it came out. Like where was the chapter in like the story, and it was here this entire time.
あの教会、規模の割に人数が少ないのよ。
Aoko picked up her pace as they head for the church. Somehow, she seemed like a general invading enemy territory. It made Sojo furrow his brows in discomfort. Either church had a long history. Far from the station, it was a white-painted sanctuary nestled between the business and residential districts. As far as Aoko could remember, the church as she knew it was the result of remodeling done 8 years prior. It was practically a cathedral for a town of this size. Incidentally, located next to it was the Misaki City General Hospital. From Aoko's perspective, it seemed awfully suspicious for the church to take up residence next to the location in the city where the most lives were lost, though the only two who were aware of this opinion were her roommate, Alice Kuonji, and the priest.
青崎はこの教会に縁があるのか？
私はこれっぽっちも。もう過去に戻って改ざんしたいぐらいみじんもないけど、うちの父と祖父は長い付き合い。ここの手伝いなんて忌々しいことに小学生の頃は毎日してたもんだけど。
The more Aoko spoke, the more twisted her expression became. Recalling this made her want to grab it by the proverbial collar, give it the proverbial one arm, judo back throw, smash its proverbial head into the proverbial ground, and kick the proverbial living daylights out of its defensive proverbial torso. Nice. Such was her so-called trauma that if it were anthropomorphized, it would take more than 5-round beating to satisfy her thirst for vengeance. Jesus. Ooh. It was in this moment, as he became aware of Aoko's mood, that Sojiro began to fear for his safety. Perhaps attracted by the noisy murder of crows outside the church, a woman in a nun's habit emerged from the front entrance.
失礼ですが、どちらのお客様でしょう？当教会は暴力団関係の方はご遠慮いただいておりますので、日を改める、あるいは生き方を悔い改めた後、社会的な罪を償ってから門をくぐっていただきたいのですが。
青崎青子です。シスターユイか？
まあ、青子さんでしたか。驚きました。昼間のうちにあなたが来るのは久しぶりです。
そうですね。いつもは夜に呼ばれて神父様とだけお話をしていますから。まあ意外ですね。1年近くまともにお話をしていません。この先だって一度もないでしょうけど。
Who knows?
ええ、あなたも随分と立派になられたようでがっかりです。何より今の気配は清らかな少女とは思えないほど悪辣でした。
On the surface, the two exchanged congenial greetings. Unable to read between the lines, all Sojiro could see were two good friends.
今月のボランティアは私とそこの彼です。親愛なる間協会のためですから。10時から3時まで1分の狂いもなくきっかり働かせていただきますわ。
まあ、世も末ですが歓迎しますね。神の家は万人に等しく開くもの。この際、あなたの内面は見なかったことにしておきましょう。
The nun flashed a smile that was equal parts elegant and cruel. Keeping up appearances aside, she seemed overjoyed to have been able hands to be put to work. The sister introduced herself as Yuika Suse and thanked Sojiro, who had volunteered of his own volition. Sojiro noticed that her eyes were always shut, but not wanting to be rude, especially in front of Aoko, he decided not to pry.
しずきさんとおっしゃるのですね。
So he has a harmless aura.
声のイメージ通り落ち着いたお名前です。
はあ、それはどうも。
The sister let slip a frown at Sojiro's ambivalent. The sister let slip a frown at Sojiro's ambivalent response to her compliment.
失礼。名字で呼ばれるのはお嫌いのようですね。宗十郎さんでよろしい
Oh
です
my
か？
god, she's already trying to get on first name. First name. Yeah.
いや、どっちでもいいですけど。
ではそのように。ほんと難儀なことですね。
Though the sister's tone was gentle, her words seemed somewhat indifferent. She lacked sight, but she guided the two with certainty within her step.
それで奉仕の内容ですが。分かってます。クリスマス前だし面倒な掃除を済ませておきたいんでしょ。問題ありません。そういうの得意ですから。
It wasn't their strong suit as much as it was Sojiro's.
では青子さんはかまどの方で聖兵の作り置きを、しずきさんは外に、私どもでは手の届かない箇所の清掃をお願いします。ちょっと待って、台所に律香のやついないでしょうね。こんなところであんなのに会うなんてごめんだから。律香は留守です。ですのでどうぞ気兼ねなく。
With a dismissive wave, Aoko headed toward the door in the back of the worship hall. As she had indicated, she was quite accustomed to this church.
しずきさんはこちらに。まずは物置から清掃道具を運んでいただきます。
I hope he's getting paid for all this. Wait, it's volunteer work. Great. The work entrusted to Sojiro did not require any particular skill. It was window cleaning at its most standard.
窓を全部拭けばいいんですね。
水拭きと空拭き、その後にコートスプレーもお願いします。はしごの高さは足りますか？
あれ、ちょっと足りないっぽいですね。
では届く範囲で結構ですので、よろしくお願いします。
After the brief exchange, the sister returned to the church. Sojiro began to wonder if it was out of distrust in him that she was being so curt. I don't think that's the case, because she can see like everyone's like aura, right? She would not distrust Sojiro. He had nothing in him that would be like, he had zero hostility in him that she saw. He understood that it was too soon to glean an answer from their first meeting, but then again, such answers always eluded Sojiro. Left alone but no less encouraged, Sojiro began cleaning the windows. The day's weather was a disappointment once again. It had not gone so far as to rain, but was too overcast to enjoy the sun. He leaned against the tall ladder and beginning with the window about 5 yards from the ground, quietly cleaned. Sojiro was never the kind of person to mind physical labor. In fact, if there had been a blue sky, this might have been a perfect day off to him. By the time he finished his third or fourth window, he felt very relaxed and began to whistle. Though 15 feet was an intimidating height, it provided a wonderful view at the same time. Turning toward the town gave Sojiro a clear view of the tree-topped hill that had previously caught his eye.
やっぱり林の中に家があるような。
But he wouldn't go to that house until like chapter 6, right? The mansion. The hill in the woods just outside town. From here, the forest overlooking the sleepless city looked like a foreign castle.
あれ？なになに泥棒さん？
the baddie. Just then, lost in his thoughts while wiping windows, Sojiro was pulled out of his trance by someone pacing below him. He looked down and saw a girl, her unkept clothes otherwise contrasting with her kind visage.
でもちょっと怪盗には似合わないのんびり屋さん風味。どっちかっていうとあれかしら。暖炉から現れては微妙にいらないおもちゃを押し付けるセイントみたいな。うわぁ、私あのヒゲ苦手なのよね。だってどう見ても不法侵入者じゃないあの人。
She looked to be in her late 20s. Despite the cold, she was not wearing a coat. She had no purse either, which was rather strange as a woman and her purse were never far apart. Not that Sojiro knew this truth quite yet. Based on the fact that none of this seemed to apply to her, one could have easily surmised that she was herself a little loosey-goosey. A few cars short of a full deck, one might also say.
あ、私ピンときたわ。君、ミサコのバイトの子？偉いわ。今時の高校生は業者さん顔負けなのね。
The girl looked up in admiration to Sojiro as he stood atop his ladder.
よーし、私も手伝っちゃおうかな。はしごはまだある？他の雑巾は？どうせだからホースで水をかけるのはどうかしら。こうバーッとケルヒョーとか叫びながら罰当たりだけど、それなら少しぐらいは楽しくなりそうじゃない？
The girl let out a hearty laugh. Her smile glowed like a cactus that had sprouted legs and begun to run about. Inasmuch as a running cactus could only cause trouble. As Sojiro anticipated, the girl began to clean without waiting for his approval.
いえ、教会の前を通ったら人影っぽいのが窓にへばりついてるのが見えちゃったの。昼間っから泥棒とか豪快だなーってちょっと興味惹かれちゃって。そしたら可愛い子が真面目に労働してたわけ。窓拭きの達人みたいにビッとかっこよく。そんなの見せられたら手伝いたくなるのが人情じゃない？
Wiping the window next to Sojiro, the girl continued to chatter cheerfully. Although this was all kinds of suspicious, Sojiro politely followed her lead, nodding and agreeing as she spoke. Perhaps it was an instinctive camaraderie. He sensed this girl was just like him, always getting the short end of the stick when it came to menial work.
あなたは教会の人なんですか？
私？いえ、ただの通りすがりよ。
Wait, that's a lie.
それよりあなたってのは他人行儀ね。君とは商店街で何度も会ってるのに。
いや、会ってませんよ。
会ってます。君、魚達さんでバイトしてる子でしょ？今週だけでも何度か行ってるもん、私。私はそうね、花沢って言うんだけど、君の名前は？
Wait, that's not her name. Wait, why is she trying to keep a secret identity? Hanazawa took a quick glance at the flower bed below in the middle of her introduction, then gave him a friendly laugh. Sojiro's self-introduction, however, was his usual brand of awkward.
宗十郎さん。いい名前ね、古風な感じで。名前に数字が入ってるとなんか日本人って感じがしない？ここの神父さんとかシスターの名前知ってる？エイリとかユイカとか、なんか外国風なんだけど。
エイリさんはともかく、ユイカさんは綺麗な黒髪の女の人でしたよ。
あら、神父さんにはまだ会っていないのね。相田教会の美形神父と美人姉妹って言ったら有名なんだけど。あ、そうか。さては君、最近引っ越してきたんでしょう。しかも一人暮らしと見たわ。
そうですけど、花沢さんすごいですね。さっきからあまりにも的確な当てずっぽうです。
いえいえ、推理と言ってくれたまえ。君ぐらいの子がアルバイトに精を出すほどこの町の娯楽は魅力的じゃないもの。 遊ぶお金ならバイト1件で賄えちゃうわ。君は物欲のあるタイプじゃなさそうだし。
He just thinks that money is really important.
となるとこれはもう生活費のためと考えるのが健全でしょ。まあ学生さんが生活費も学費も自分だけで賄うなんてのは健全じゃないんだけど。
いや、そうでもないですよ。働かざる者食うべからずです。
そっか、宗十郎さんは若いのに立派ね。私も学生の頃はバイト三昧だったから少しは君の大変さもわかるわよ。
なんと花沢さんも一人暮らしだったんですか？
ええ、親の反対を押し切ってよその国に留学しちゃったの。あっちには友達もいたから下宿先には困らなかったけど、さすがに食費ぐらいは稼がないとね。けどまあこう見えて肉体労働は苦にならないタイプだし、学院もバイトも楽しい思い出になってるわ。
Sojiro nodded agreeably. Dignified or not, he could barely hold back the sense of solidarity that was welling up within him.
これも何かの縁だし、魚達さんではこれからお世話になりそうだし、頼りないだろうけど相談事があったらぜひ言ってね。精神面で力になるわ。
ありがとうございます。じゃあ早速ですけど、ここは何をするところなんでしょう？
As Sojiro said here, he pointed at the church. Oh, she can't actually tell him what they actually do. Oh. Even Hanazawa was taken back by his question. Unaware of Sojiro's provincial background, combined with her quick-witted nature, Hanazawa seemingly mistook his question for some kind of sophisticated wit. Yeah, because like everyone knows what people do at a church, so like she probably thinks she's on to all the mage stuff happening here. Uh-oh.
そうね。心の安全を扱っているというのはどうかしら。いえ、安全というよりは鎧？継ぎはぎのバリケード？とにかく本人はちっとも鍛えられないってことは同じよね。あとはパンとワインも分けてくれるわね。
無料でですか？
もちろん。止めるものは勝手に置いていくって話。あとはそっか、これが一番大きいんだけど、収入に税金がかからない。心の安全は扱いが難しいけど、きちんと売り物にできればノーリスクハイリターンよ。
はあ、よくわからないですけど、ピンチの時はここに転がり込めばいいんですね。
それはおすすめしないな。
But they do go there eventually.
ご利用は月に1回、気休め程度にした方がいいと思う。
The rag squeaked as the two carefree souls continued to wipe down the windows. Whistling as they went, they shined up one window, then another, and another.
そうだ、もう一つあります。ここから見えるあの森、何ですか？
森？あの山の上にある森のこと？
ですけど、あれは山じゃなくて丘と言うべきです。
He thinks it's a hill. As someone raised in the countryside, Sojiro's pride would not allow for a mound of dirt to be called a mountain.
そう？あれはあれで結構登るのに体力使うんだけど、ま、そっちの方がよりらしいわね。
It was as if the shadow fell over her till now sunny disposition. She was undoubtedly a beautiful woman with very lovely features. But as Sojiro looked at her in that moment, her smile melted away, and he saw how disturbed she was at his comment. And when it comes down to it,
あれは丘です。それとほら、ここから煙突みたいなの見えますけど、あれは何ですか
？Sojiro was not one to closely watch people's reactions and fuss over his speech.
あれは本物の煙突よ。あの森は全部私有地なんだけど、その中にでっかい洋館が建っているの。 でも私有地だから地元の人間も入ったことはないんじゃないかしら。通称クオンジのお化け屋敷ってね。近所の皆さんは気味悪がってるし、あんまり近寄らない方がいいんじゃない？あんな小さな森なのに遭難したとか野犬が出るとか、
Yeah,
物
also
騒な
mages.
話には事書かないから。
野犬って都会にも野犬。
If I was rating this for the first time, would I wonder if I would suspect anything of like a Ritsuka. Like there's a bunch of nuance you could catch it like that. Like she's not like fully letting Sojiro on, and she's hiding something. I wonder if I would have caught that.
たくさんいるわよ。この教会の裏手の空き地にだっているし、ここの神父さんは物好きだからパンとかあげちゃって、それでワンちゃんの巡回ルートになっちゃってるんでしょうけど。とにかく君子危うきに近寄らずよ。あの森には入らないのが町のルールなの。そもそも私有地だし、入ったらおまわりさんを呼ばれちゃって、そのまま交番でお説教タイムなんてあんまり楽しくないでしょ。
Sojiro nodded along to her story as he stared at the far-off chimney from his vantage point on the ladder. A teeny tiny part of him was curious about that hill, because it reminded him of the woods where he grew up, but after reminding himself that it was none of his business, he returned to window washing. Thanks to Hanazawa lending a hand, they were able to finish the job without a hitch. Between the two of them, they had accomplished a simple but very time-consuming task.
はい、ご苦労様でした。あれだけ砂まみれだった窓が見違えたわね。どう？これから適当な査点でお茶にしない？宗十郎さんの仕事っぷりに敬意を表して。
はい、何か言いました花沢さん。
いや、ごめんなさい、休養を思い出しちゃった。花沢さんはここで失礼するのでした。チャオ。
Why'd she just leave like that? By the time Sojiro, who had started putting away the ladder, turned around, he was only able to catch a glimpse of the girl's figure dashing towards the street at lightning speed. It was just before 3 o'clock. More than 3 hours had passed since Hanazawa offered to help. Sojiro watched the girl with many strange faces disappear. For someone who seemed to have been on an aimless walk, Hanazawa had spent a good deal of time with him. Yeah, suspicious. Maybe helping Sojiro out reminded her of something she needed to do. What did she do? What does she actually do as a mage? I forgot.
しずきくん、そっちにいるの？
The student council president popped her head out from the corner of the church.
あ、声かけてごめん。いいから作業に専念。
The sight of Sojiro putting away a ladder taller than himself seemed to have provoked an emotional response in Aoko. Then, in an instant, she rolled up her sleeves and began to approach him. What is she about to do?
Oh.
This surprised him more than Aoko's sudden appearance. Ignoring Sojiro's bewilderment, Aoko promptly began issuing orders.
はしご、横に倒していいわよ。下の方は私が持つから、あなたは上の方をお願い。
She did all of this so matter-of-factly that Sojiro began lowering the ladder before he even had a chance to insist that he could do it by himself. With work finished and the sisters' thank you gifts in hand, the two put the church behind them. Since Aoko apparently had something to do around the station, they decided they would walk together until they got there.
でも、本当にアルバイト慣れしてるのね。
A really hard worker. You could say the hardest worker. Beneath the orange-tinted sky, Aoko spoke more as though she was expressing her thoughts out loud than striking up conversation.
そうか。青崎から見てそうなら少しは嬉しいな。
Sojiro gave her an earnest smile. But then again, he had been beaming ever since he received his pay, so the source of his joy was not so clear.
あのね、あなたは普段が問題ばっかりなんだから、あんまり調子に乗らないように。差し引きゼロっていうか、
What does she mean by that?
まだまだマイナスなんだから。
学校のことは言われると悲しくなる。
Sojiro hung his head dejectedly. Even if his job had been going well, school was still a bust. Exams were one thing, but even classwork was something he had found himself falling behind in.
青崎は成績悪いやつは嫌いか？
まあ、頭というか巡りの悪い人との話は疲れるでしょうね。でもあなたはそれ以前だし、そもそも私にはこれっぽっちも関係ないし。
She's such a tsundere.
でっかいハンデを何とかするのは先生たちの仕事で、それに応えるのはあなたの役目。アルバイトもいいけど、帰ったらきちんと予習やっときなさいよ。
それはもちろん。学校の人たちはみんないい人だ。
そう、ならいいけど、みんないい人？
Aoko cocked her head to one side, unsure how this exchange had resulted in that response. She decided to interpret it as Sojiro simply expressing his gratitude in his own peculiar way.
ところで、
Is this hinting like how badly he got treated by some people in the mountains? Dude, I wonder if there's that much like nuance to that. Everyone that's
参考までに聞くんだけど、あなた他にどんなバイトしてるの？
どこって商店街が多い。魚のお店とか花の店とか。あ、でも昨日は隣町まで遠出したな。遊園地のアルバイト。
Who went over to the next town to work. Since the only school authorized locations were in the Misaki shopping district, his response was as much as she expected. That is, except for the undecidedly unexpected last part.
遊園地ってヤシロギの？
そう。使わなくなった看板とかオブジェとか解体して運び出したんだ。さすがに疲れたな、あれは。
Okay, so it's Kitty Land is closed, but there's still like yeah.
へえ、それは体力勝負でしょうね。
This left Aoko rather impressed. Transporting unused amusement park machinery was not a job that students did willingly in their free time.
でもいいな。私、キッチーランドって一度も行ったことないの。三崎町に住んでるのに。
They're mentioning Kitty Land before Chapter 5, that's crazy. Well, it turns out she would end up going to Kitty Land eventually. Aoko looked up in the direction of the neighboring town. From here, you could just barely make out the Ferris wheel. The round steel frame of the wheel, illuminated by the sunset as it was reminiscent of an old gravestone.
そうか。それは金銭的な理由で。
Yes. What? Aoko had to stifle her laughter. She knew it would be rude to Sojiro to burst out laughing, but the remark tickled her funny bone.
そういうんじゃなくて。
I don't think she really hated Sojiro. Like, there weren't really... This is so weird, because like, I remember in Chapter 2, even in Chapter 2, they barely... It felt like their interactions were always hostile, and then we're in Chapter 1.5, but they're having this super friendly conversation.
純にあれが開園してから立て込んでて遊びに行く暇がなかっただけよ。お金で解決する問題だったらそれこそ今すぐに言ってるわ。
Like, I feel like they didn't even really have these friendly conversations until, like, after chapter 6. Aoko showed Sojiro the envelope that contained the pay from the church. There is nothing sinister about her remark and gesture, but the fact that she did not jump at the chance to go made Sojiro sad.
それなら今度行けばいいじゃないか。
But it's closed. This fool.
ありがとう。けどそれは無理な話。
Well, this was also before the incident. What, the incident? Okay, but the incident happened in chapter 3. Like, I think, what even was chapter 2 mainly about? Like, honestly, the only real thing I remember from chapter 2 was Tsukiji, explaining Aoko's back history at the school to Sojiro. I don't remember much about chapter 2 after that, I'll be honest. But like, I still feel like remembering like every time Aoko talked to Sojiro in chapter 2, which was before the incident in the park, it always sounded like she hated him.
あんたのことだから気づいていないと思うけど、あれ潰れてるのよ。
What? Tsukiji. What? That's how you... Tsukiji. What? That's how you pronounce it.
「肺炎になってからもう2年以上は経つんじゃない？」
なんと。
What? It was no wonder there were no customers all the time he was there. Exasperated as she was at Sojiro, the student council president seemed to be enjoying herself. At this point, she would be yelling things at Sojiro like, "I can't believe you didn't know that," but this evening, this one and only evening, she found it charming. They parted ways, and Sojiro returned home to his apartment, immersed himself in his studies, and before he knew it, it was time to go to work. The major cultural difference, though certainly not the only point of difference, between city and country was the use of time. It did not matter what part of the city he was in, time flowed far too quickly here. Failing to squeeze even a drop of knowledge from his textbooks, he put them away for the day before heading into town. The night grew deeper as today turned into tomorrow. Sojiro reversed his collar to protect his neck from the bitter cold and began to make his way back home. Not a soul to be seen, no dogs scrounging for food, no late-night shoppers. Why would there be? The solitary convenience store in the area closed at 11 o'clock. He mustered what little energy he had to take in an especially deep breath. Man-made landmarks lined the deserted street. Garish blue fluorescent lights brighter than the stars above, illuminated the darkness. An unconscious sense of anxiety stirred within him.
情けない。夜が怖いのは当たり前じゃないか。
A chill crept up his spine as he attempted to mask his weakness with words. Stay out of the dark. Stay away from deserted places. Whether it was for some deeper reason, or perhaps the fact that he looked so helpless. Was it a deeper reason? I don't remember. Why did he fear the dark? He has a reason for fearing the dark. Everybody he had met in his life seemed to warn him with those words.
そうは言ってもしょうがないし、大体。
Did knowing that ever help anyone? What did that even mean? Stay out of the dark. Nowhere in the city was without light. Everywhere, from the bustling train station to the remote residential areas, was illuminated by artificial light, not least the main roads. Scary was scary, but this kind of fear was a different sort than what he'd felt in the mountains. The most likely source of his fear was the fact that this place was governed by starkly different rules. The way in which the city meted out justice was terribly imbalanced. And to the provincial Sojiro, his lack of familiarity with the laws of the land terrified him more than the dark. In the mountains, retribution came swiftly to those who broke the rules. Take a game trail, for example. Those who unwittingly trespassed on the animal kingdom's domain would, as a matter of course, be savaged by native wildlife. Accordingly, in Sojiro's mind, an offender paid the price for one's mistakes immediately. It was not a matter of who punished whom, it was simply that the one who broke the rules would meet instant and tangible retribution. He felt that, in this regard, the laws of the city were far too ambiguous. One could meet their demise without ever knowing whether one was in the right or wrong.
けど、基本的には変わらないんだよな。
Yeah. To put it simply, retribution was delayed. Oh yeah, like breaking the rules, like not being, being caught by mages, and yeah. To take the analogy a step further, back home in his village, no one individual had been given the responsibility of maintaining order. In the city, however, someone was put in charge of punishing lawbreakers on behalf of the kind-hearted citizens who lived there. While crime and punishment in the mountains were synonymous, in the city the two were separated, and an unrelated person brought judgment after the crime had been committed. Entering places that must not be entered. Seeing things that must not be seen. Like a mage. Breaking a law had consequences. Someone would come to exact justice for the law that was broken. This is crazy foreshadowing. The result of all of this was the safest way to survive the city was not to stick your nose in the affairs of others. When the people who cared about Sojiro told him to stay away, they probably meant, if you don't, nobody will be able to help you.
といけない。また近道しそうになった。
No matter how much of a nuisance these obstacles were, one could not just climb over a neighbor's fence, even when one's apartment was just the other side. If the people inside happened to be awake and called the police, nobody would lift a hand to help him. With his misguided view of the city, Sojiro once again ended his day in peace. Unable to fall asleep right away, he gazed out his window upon the night sky from the floor of his apartment. The cityscape had caused him to tremble in fear when he first moved here. The convenience of solving almost any problem with the flip of a switch. The novelty of living a wall away from a complete stranger. It all disappeared into the night sky when he looked up.
こんな空もあるのか。
Unconsciously, he recalled his own words. What dim stars. What a cramped sky. Here there are no starry nights. Could he even survive here? The same misgivings since his first night continued to haunt him. His eyelids fell shut. Although he was fraught with worry, Sojiro's body felt the fatigue from his work and studies, and thus he fell asleep. That was 2 hours of reading. Wait, this like this is not this is actually just a whole chapter. What? Like I thought it was gonna be like, I don't know, in total like maybe each section was like 10 minutes or so. So like in total it'd be like 40 minutes. This was 2 hours. What? Am I just a really slow? I mean like, no, because like, I mean I read at the same pace that I did read the rest of the story. It was just, that was enough content for a full chapter. What? I can't believe this. Okay, I did not expect chapter 1.5 to take that long. I mean, it's 0.5 legit chapter, so I thought it'd be an hour or less. Well, there's multiple reasons why you take longer. Okay, sorry. But yeah, I mean, I thought I was gonna push through way more of the extra content today, but you're pausing to give thoughts every 5 minutes. I mean, isn't that good? I feel like that's a good thing, though, because I'm actually trying to take in the story and analyze it. Do most people not like analyze like and think about everything for every 5 minutes like I do? Do they just like I don't know. It's not that I'm a slow reader. It's just that like you know, I take a lot of pauses to think. I don't know. Maybe most people don't do that. But yeah, I thought we were gonna get pushed through way more content today, but like that 1.5 chapter 1.5 still took 2 hours, and that's basically how long I usually do a chapter for. So yeah, that's probably all for today. Martha. This seems like way more than the 3 to 4 hours of extra content. I'm cooked. Still got... How long are these? This is a giant book right here, the Carnegie Case. I mean, I probably will stream tomorrow. Like I said, I am so caught up on my gacha games, I actually have nothing to do. So, yeah, we probably will stream tomorrow. Yeah, I actually can't think of anything. I'm actually so caught up. It is so crazy. Guys, I need another gacha game. Oh, it's bedtime.